Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, let's talk about 8 things that we can expect or we can look forward to in the upcoming Reverie arc. And so I still see people talking about this as though it is in fact, but at the very least we should expect the Reverie arc to begin immediately starting the next chapter. Even if it isn't the full chapter, it should be a huge component of the next chapter. This was teased on the cover of Shonen Jump for chapter 902. As well as, guys, the cover for Shonen Jump for the next week has already been leaked, and it features Luffy along with Vivi, Karoo, and King Cobra. I think that's all you need to suspect that Reverie will be a huge component, if not the entirety, of the next chapter. But without further ado, 8 things that we can look forward to or expect in Reverie. Number 1, I expect to learn about the state of the world. The Reverie is the Council of Kings, which discuss the current events of the world. They should be talking about all the people of interest to the world and its safety, and all the problems that the world government does not wish to hide or shush. And maybe we should expect a little bit of that anyway. And so this first point is kind of vague, because it really exists to talk about some of the characters that aren't typically associated with the Reverie. I'm talking about characters like Aokiji, characters like Blackbeard, Kaido. I expect that there will be a lot of little points brought up during the Reverie that will only increase our hype and excitement for the future of the story. And one character of interest, and one that I feel like is definitely going to be highlighted during the Reverie, leads us straight into point number 2, which is discussion about Luffy, and a possible real-time increase in his bounty. Here's the facts, guys. The Straw Hat Pirates have only been relevant to the world for about 2 years. The last Reverie was held 4 years ago, and in these 2 years of being a pirate, the Straw Hats have done more perhaps than anybody else aside from the Revolutionary Army in specifically harming the world government, from attacking Eni's lobby, to impel down freeing many prisoners, taking down multiple Chichibu Kai, fighting the full brunt of the Marines and the world government in Marineford, and once it was completed, leaving a message to the world that a new age was coming. This is a person who is the grandson of the hero Garp, the son of the most wanted man in the world, Dragon, the adopted brother of Ace, the son of Goldie Roger, somebody who is strongly connected to Goldie Roger's right-hand man, the Dark King Silver's Rayleigh. Luffy will certainly be somebody that the kings at the Reverie discuss as a potential threat to the world in just a few years' time. And guys, it's even possible, as they are talking about him, news begins to break that Luffy personally snuck into Whole Cake Island, the territory of the Yonko Big Mom, and lived to tell the story. Big News Morgans is free and leaving Whole Cake Island. He intends on reporting the news. The Reverie and the world might soon take more notice than ever of the Straw Hat Pirates and their potential. And so I don't expect the entire crew to get a bounty raise from the events in Whole Cake Island, but I do think that it is possible for Luffy. And if this news breaks during the middle of the Reverie, it's quite possible we find out his new bounty before the rest of the world. But I think what's most interesting about the discussion that is definitely going to surround Luffy is that there will be many various perspectives from the different kings that are attending the Reverie, because Luffy has fostered good relationships with several kings, having saved them from imminent threats. We're talking about Alabasta of Sakura Kingdom and Dressrosa. And aside from this, the Straw Hats are loosely connected to any kingdom which despised Doflamingo and his work in the underworld. This includes Prudence Kingdom, as well as Kano Kingdom, and potentially, guys, many others. This is just something to keep in mind, guys, but it's very possible that the subject of Luffy, once brought up, has the potential to create a lot of conflict within the Reverie. But I think that the main focus of this conflict will lead us into point number 3, which is that the abolition of the Chichibu Kai seems like something that is being set up. Luffy would not have anywhere near the amount of support that he does within the world government if it weren't for the existence of the Chichibu Kai and their actions while given leniency from the government. This narrative was first cultivated before the time skip with the actions of Crocodile trying to become the king of Alabasta, And then it was further extended after the time skip with Luffy taking on Doflamingo. But the difference between the two is that what Luffy ended up doing with Crocodile and Crocodile's actions within the Grand Line were for the most part covered up. Luffy's name was not tied directly to Alabasta, and only those who know the specificities of the situation and were there would know that for sure. People like Smoker, people like Vivi and Cobra. But the rest of the world is unaware. The rest of the world believes that Smoker was the one to defeat Crocodile. The world government and the Marines are the heroes which saved the world from the threat of the rogue Chichibu Kai. This lends to the impression that the world government is willing to keep the Chichibu Kai in check and keep them law-abiding. But the truth was revealed in Dressrosa because of Fujitora. Fujitora announced, exploiting the system of the 7 Chichibu Kai, that vile pirate, made himself the king of a country and its lands, subjugated none other than the world government itself. I ask most humbly for your forgiveness. The people of the world should have many doubts as to whether or not the world government can handle the Chichibu Kai and whether or not their existence is safe for the world. And I expect that there should be many countries affected by Doflamingo's trade in arms that will agree that the Chichibu Kai should be abolished. But going into the fourth thing that you should be looking forward to is information and conversation relating to the poneglyphs. King Cobra of Alabasta himself said this: ever since the day I met Nico Robin, there's been something I've wanted to ask the world government. If I get the chance, I would like to learn all those years ago, what in the world did the king of the Nefertari clan do to this world? While I do not expect the world government to answer this question, the consequences of this question might be very extreme. And there's always the potential that we can learn little nuggets of actual truth. But I think that this leads us into point number 5. In fact, the last 3 points have led into point number 5, which is it's very possible we see division within the world government. From the different perspectives on Luffy and the Chichibu Kai, conversation of the poneglyphs, and even further than this, the Reverie is inclined to confrontation and conflict to begin with between the various member nations. How will this all play out? People will have some serious doubts about the world government and the Marines. They will question their leadership. And an oppressive organization whose leadership is being questioned can act in very dramatic ways. I definitely think that we should fear for the kingdom of Alabasta. Simply bringing up the poneglyphs might be an inexcusable offense. Or anybody who wants to stick up for Luffy's actions. What will the world government potentially want to do to them? We also know that the world government needs the Chichibu Kai. They've decided they need the Chichibu Kai, so all of these nations clamoring for their abolishment. How will the world government handle that? You have the world government and the Marines' agenda and the agenda of the world, and I could see that coming to a head, potentially leaving the world government fractured. But now let's talk about point number 6 and number 7. I'm separating them out into 2 separate parts, but it really conveys the same idea. The people of Ryugu Kingdom and Fishman Island are attempting to relocate themselves to the surface to live under the sun as they dream for and as their ancestors had dreamed for. It has taken many years to reach this moment in time where something like this is possible because the relationship between humans and fishmen has not been good. Even to the present day, mermaids are still wanted for capture, to be put into slavery, and specifically purchased by world nobles, the rulers of the entire world and the world government. These celestial dragons and many other people have made their stance on fishmen clear. They don't view them as fellow people, they view them as a lesser species. Disgusting people of the sea fish. In order to achieve their dreams, the fishmen really only have 2 options. Take war up into the surface, or try and negotiate terms. And here we're at the stage of negotiating terms. Not everybody views fishmen in the same way as the celestial dragons. And having met these people and being influenced by these people, such as Monkey D. Luffy, gives the fishmen hope. Hope that I just do not think is well placed at the moment. And so guys, this is something that doesn't actually have to boil over during the Reverie. It's quite possible that the celestial dragons and the ruling nations of the Reverie allow the fishmen to relocate. But that doesn't mean that they are allowing this relocation with good intentions in mind. We saw it clearly between the interaction of Otohime and the celestial dragon that visited Fishman Island. Fisher Tiger scaled the Red Line and freed all of the slaves he could find, including many mermaids and fishmen. This celestial dragon and probably many others want these slaves returned. But clearly they cannot do that while the fishmen are under the ocean. But if they were on the surface, perhaps it would be a lot easier. And I think that this adds up perfectly with another thing that we know. Shirahoshi is planning on attending the Reverie. We know how much the celestial dragons prize their mermaids, and there is no mermaid more prizeworthy than the giant, beautiful Shirahoshi, the true pearl of the sea. The celestial dragon's greed knows no bounds. I can't imagine them not wanting to obtain this pearl. And regardless of what is good for the world or what is good for the world government, the celestial dragon's word remains law. What they want becomes legal and must be accepted. And so guys, the final point, number 8. Will the Revolutionary Army make an appearance during the Reverie? Now I just want to make this clear guys, I get the impression that a lot of people might be disappointed if the revolutionaries do not show up in the Reverie, but it is entirely possible that they don't. That being said, I think that there is a lot of reason to suggest that they might. We see that Dragon is calling upon the various leaders of the Revolutionary Army that were scattered around the world. They have abandoned their home base in Baltigo. Given that the Revolutionary Army has been specifically attacking kingdoms and overthrowing kings, I think fundamentally it just makes sense to attack the place where they all might be gathered. We learned 8 years ago that the world government determined that the Revolutionary Army and Dragon would become a huge threat to the world in 4 or 5 years. 4 years ago there was another Reverie, but clearly Dragon did not attack it. But maybe that wasn't the right time. And maybe this is the right time. Maybe the Revolutionary Army feels as though they have acquired enough power now to challenge the world formally, at their base of operations. And so guys, if this does happen, I think that we should prepare for the possibility that we learn that it is occurring, but we don't find out what the final verdict is, what occurs with the world government and the Revolutionary Army until many chapters later. This could very well be the cliffhanger which ends the Reverie. But yeah guys, that's just my introduction to the Reverie, everything that I feel like is pertinent to know about it before we get into it and see what actually comes of it. As always, I am curious as to what you guys have to say about this, whether you agree or disagree, and why. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.